Hello and welcome to Insomniac Histories. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast desert, the sand stretching endlessly before you, like a golden ocean frozen in time. Behind you lies the familiar world, your home, your family, everything you have ever known. Ahead lies the unknown, a journey that will take years, that will carry you across mountains that scrape the sky, through cities more magnificent than anything you could imagine, and into lands where people speak languages you have never heard and worship gods you have never seen. You are a merchant, and you are about to embark on one of the greatest adventures in human history. You are going to travel the Silk Road. This is not a single road, but a network of routes stretching more than 4,000 miles from the markets of China to the Mediterranean coast. It is the thread that connects east and west, the pathway along which silk, spices, ideas, religions, and entire civilizations flow. It is dangerous, exhausting, and potentially deadly. Bandits haunt the caravan routes, sandstorms can bury entire caravans, diseases lurk in every city. The journey will take 2 to 3 years if you survive it. But if you do survive, if you successfully carry your goods from one end of the known world to the other, you will return wealthy beyond imagination. Tonight, we will travel the Silk Road together in its golden age, during the 8th century AD, when Tang Dynasty China is at its height, when the Islamic Caliphate stretches across Central Asia, and when trade and cultural exchange reach a level that will not be seen again until the modern era. We will feel the desert sun on our faces, taste the foods of distant lands, and experience the wonder and terror of a journey across the roof of the world. This is not just a story of commerce, it is a story of human connection, of how the desire for exotic goods and the courage of countless merchants, camel drivers, and adventurers created a world more interconnected than most people realize. But before we begin our epic journey, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It's a simple and wonderful way to support the channel, and it means a great deal to me. I'm also always curious to know where in the world and at what time you're joining me tonight. So I'd really love to hear from you in the comments. And now, settle in. Let the noise of the modern world fade away, and let us travel back to a time of camel caravans, exotic bazaars, and the endless ribbon of the Silk Road stretching across the heart of Asia. Our journey begins in Chang'an, the capital of Tang Dynasty China, in the year 750 AD. Chang'an is the largest and most cosmopolitan city in the world, home to more than 1 million people. It is a planned city, laid out on a perfect grid with massive walls enclosing nearly 30 square miles. The streets are broad and straight, lined with trees and filled with people from every corner of the known world. You can see Chinese scholars in their silk robes, Buddhist monks with shaved heads and saffron garments, Persian merchants in colorful tunics and turbans, Arab traders, Korean diplomats, Indian mystics, and even a few Europeans. Though they are rare this far east, the city is a testament to the wealth and power of the Tang Dynasty, one of the great golden ages of Chinese civilization. The markets of Chang'an are overwhelming in their abundance. The East Market and West Market are enormous commercial districts where you can buy almost anything the world has to offer. There is silk, of course, rolls upon rolls of it in every color imaginable. There is porcelain, the finest ceramics in the world, so thin you can almost see through it. There are lacquerware, tea, paper, and books. There were exotic animals, parrots and peacocks from the south, hunting dogs from Central Asia. There were performers, acrobats, musicians, and storytellers from a dozen different lands. You are a merchant, perhaps originally from Sogdiana, the region of Central Asia around Samarkand and Bukhara, in what is now Uzbekistan. The Sogdians are the premier merchants of the Silk Road, a people who have made trade their specialty for centuries. Sogdian is the lingua franca of the Silk Road, the language that merchants from China to Persia use to communicate and conduct business. Your family has been in the silk trade for generations, but this will be your first complete journey from China to the West. Your father made this journey 3 times in his life and grew wealthy from it. Now it is your turn. You have spent the last year in Chang'an buying and preparing your cargo. You have purchased silk, hundreds of bolts of it, in various weights and colors. You have bought porcelain, carefully packed in straw and wooden crates. You have acquired Chinese medicines, herbs, and compounds unknown in the West. You have even purchased some paper, still a relatively new technology that is just beginning to spread beyond China. All of this has cost a fortune, money borrowed from other Sogdian merchants and your family's life savings. If you lose this cargo, you are ruined. If you succeed, you will multiply your investment many times over. The day of departure arrives. You join a caravan assembling at the western gate of Chang'an. Caravans are essential on the Silk Road. No one travels alone. The dangers are too great. Strength is in numbers, protection in the crowd. Your caravan consists of about 50 merchants and their servants, more than 200 camels, horses and mules, and a contingent of guards. Tough men armed with swords, spears, and composite bows. The caravan master is an experienced Uyghur, a member of one of the Turkic peoples who dominate Central Asia. He has made this journey a dozen times and knows every well, every oasis, every dangerous pass. His word is law. The caravan will travel together for months, sharing the hardships and dangers of the road. The first stage of the journey takes you through the Hexi Corridor, a narrow strip of habitable land between the Tibetan Plateau to the south and the deserts of Mongolia to the north. This corridor has been the gateway between China and the West for more than 1,000 years. The landscape changes quickly as you leave the green, irrigated lands around Chang'an. The terrain becomes drier, more barren. The road follows a series of oases, small settlements clustered around springs or rivers. At each oasis, the caravan stops to rest, to water the animals, and to resupply. You pass through the city of Lanzhou, a major trading center on the Yellow River. Then, you continue west to Wuwei, Jiangye, and Jiuquan, cities of the Hexi Corridor. Each city is a marvel, with Buddhist temples, bustling markets, and diverse populations. At Dunhuang, you make an important stop. This city is famous for the Mogao Caves, a complex of nearly 500 Buddhist cave temples carved into a cliff face. The caves are filled with paintings and statues, some of the most beautiful Buddhist art in the world. You make an offering at one of the temples, praying for a safe journey. Many merchants commission paintings or donate money to temples along the route, hoping to earn spiritual merit and divine protection for their dangerous travels. From Dunhuang, the road splits. You can go north, following the route around the Tian Shan Mountains, or south, skirting the Taklamakan Desert. Both routes are dangerous, but they converge again at Kashgar, the great trading city on the western edge of Chinese control. The caravan master decides to take the southern route. The Taklamakan Desert is one of the most hostile environments on Earth. Its name means "go in and you won't come out" in the local Uyghur language. It is a vast sea of sand dunes, some rising hundreds of feet high, with virtually no water and temperatures that swing from scorching heat during the day to freezing cold at night. But there is a chain of oasis towns along the southern edge of the desert, fed by snowmelt from the Kunlun Mountains to the south. The caravan will travel from oasis to oasis, never venturing far into the desert itself. Still, even this relatively safe route is challenging. You leave Dunhuang and head southwest toward the first oasis, Miran. The journey takes 5 days, and you quickly learn the rhythm of caravan travel. You rise before dawn, in the cold darkness. The camp is a chaos of activity as merchants and servants load the camels. The camels complain, groaning and spitting, as they are forced to their knees and the heavy loads are secured on their backs. Each camel can carry about 400 to 500 pounds of cargo, an enormous weight, but they are incredibly strong and can go for days without water. By the time the sun rises, the caravan is moving. You walk alongside your camels, occasionally riding a horse or donkey, but mostly you walk. Riding is uncomfortable, and you need to conserve the animal's strength. The landscape is surreal and beautiful in its desolation. Endless dunes of golden sand, strange rock formations sculpted by wind, and always the mountains in the distance. The silence is profound, broken only by the crunch of feet on sand, the jingling of harness bells, and occasional conversations among the travelers. By midday, the heat is crushing. The sun beats down mercilessly, and the sand reflects the heat back up. You wear loose cotton clothing and a turban wrapped around your head to protect against the sun. You drink sparingly from your water skin. Water is precious, rationed carefully by the caravan master. The afternoon continues in a daze of heat and exhaustion. Your feet hurt. Your back aches from the constant walking. Sand gets into everything: your clothes, your food, your eyes and mouth. Finally, as the sun begins to set, the caravan master calls a halt. Camp is made. The camels are unloaded and allowed to graze on whatever sparse vegetation can be found. Tents are erected, simple structures of felt and canvas. Fires are lit, and the evening meal is prepared. The food is simple but welcome: flatbread, dried meat, cheese, and tea. The tea is particularly important. A mix of green tea, salt, and sometimes butter, a recipe you learned from Tibetan traders. It is strange to your palate at first, but it is warming and restorative. As darkness falls, the temperature drops dramatically. You huddle near the fire, wrapped in a felt cloak. The stars appear, more stars than you have ever seen. A river of light across the black sky. Someone begins to play a two-stringed instrument, a melancholy tune that speaks of home and longing. You sleep fitfully on the hard ground, your body aching, knowing you will do this all again tomorrow. And the day after. And the day after that. After 5 days, you reach Moran, a small oasis town. It is a welcome sight, mud brick buildings surrounded by fields of wheat and apricot orchards. The caravan stops for 2 days to rest and resupply. You use the time to bathe, to wash your clothes, and to repair equipment damaged during the desert crossing. The pattern repeats. You travel from Miran to Churchen, from Churchen to Nia, from Nia to Khotan. Each oasis is similar, a small settlement clinging to survival in the desert. Dependent on the careful management of water from underground channels called karez or kanat. Khotan is larger and more prosperous, famous for its jade, mined from the nearby mountains. You spend a week here, and you take the opportunity to add some jade to your cargo. Jade is highly prized in China, but it also sells well in the West, where it is valued for its beauty and believed magical properties. From Khotan, you continue west to Yarkand, and finally to Kashgar. The journey from Dunhuang to Kashgar has taken nearly 3 months, and you have covered about 1,500 miles. Kashgar is a revelation, a cosmopolitan city at the crossroads of civilizations. It sits at the western edge of the Taklamakan Desert, where routes from China, India, Persia, and the steppes converge. The population is incredibly diverse. You hear Chinese, Sogdian, Persian, Arabic, Turkic languages, and tongues you cannot identify. The bazaar is enormous, a covered market with thousands of stalls selling goods from across the known world. There is silk from China, of course, but also cotton and spices from India, glassware from Persia, metalwork from the Islamic lands, furs from the northern steppes, and slaves from everywhere. The slave trade is an unfortunate but significant part of Silk Road commerce, with captives from wars and raids being sold as domestic servants, laborers, and concubines. You spend a month in Kashgar, resting, making repairs, and conducting business. You sell some of your Chinese goods here, making a tidy profit, and you purchase goods to carry west. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, a deep blue stone prized for jewelry and pigment, and some Indian cotton cloth. You also hear news from travelers coming from the west. There has been fighting between the Abbasid Caliphate and the Tang Empire. Just a year ago, in 751, there was a major battle at Talas, near Samarkand, where an Arab-led army defeated a Chinese force. This battle will have profound consequences, essentially ending Chinese expansion westward and securing Islamic control of Central Asia. But it also leads to an interesting exchange. Chinese prisoners taken at the battle include paper makers, and they will bring the technology of paper making to the Islamic world and eventually to Europe. For now, however, the road is still open, and trade continues despite the political tensions. When the caravan is ready, you depart Kashgar and begin the most challenging part of the journey, crossing the Pamir Mountains, often called the roof of the world. The road climbs steadily from Kashgar, following river valleys into the mountains. The landscape changes dramatically. The desert is left behind, replaced by alpine meadows, pine forests, and towering peaks covered in snow even in summer. The air becomes thinner, and you find yourself short of breath, your heart pounding from the altitude. The caravan moves slowly now, following narrow trails that cling to mountainsides, crossing rivers on rickety wooden bridges, or by fording the icy water. At night, the cold is intense. You sleep in your clothes, wrapped in every blanket you have, huddled with others for warmth. Some travelers suffer from altitude sickness, headaches, nausea, and confusion. The caravan master knows to move slowly, to allow people time to acclimatize, but some still suffer. One older merchant dies in his sleep, his heart unable to cope with the thin air. He is buried beside the trail, a simple cairn of stones marking his grave, one of thousands of such markers along the Silk Road. The highest point is a pass at nearly 15,000 feet above sea level. When you reach it, the wind is howling, and snow is falling even though it is summer. You can barely see 10 feet ahead. The cold is so intense that your fingers and toes go numb. But you push through, and finally you begin the descent. After weeks in the mountains, you reach the western side, and the landscape opens up again. You descend into the Fergana Valley, a fertile green region that seems like paradise after the mountains. Here, you encounter the culture of the Islamic world. The Abbasid Caliphate has recently expanded into Central Asia, and Islam is spreading rapidly among the Turkic and Iranian peoples of the region. The cities here, Osh, Kujand, Samarkand, and Bukhara, are centers of Islamic civilization, with magnificent mosques, madrasas, and bustling bazaars. Samarkand is your next major stop, and it is one of the great cities of the world. It has been a trading center for more than 2,000 years, and under Islamic rule, it is flourishing. The Registan, the central square, is surrounded by buildings covered in blue tile, geometric patterns, and Arabic calligraphy. The Friday Mosque is enormous, able to hold thousands of worshippers. You are not Muslim, still following the religion of your Sogdian ancestors, which includes elements of Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, and local deities. But you are respectful. And the Islamic world is generally tolerant of merchants regardless of their religion. Commerce is valued, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself was a merchant before he became a religious leader. You spend 2 months in Samarkand, conducting business and enjoying the city's amenities. The food is different from Chinese cuisine, but delicious. Flatbreads baked in clay ovens, lamb kebabs seasoned with cumin and coriander, pilafs made with rice and dried fruits, and sweet pastries dripping with honey. The bathhouses are a revelation, steamy rooms where you can finally get truly clean after months on the road. You also visit the workshops of Samarkand's famous craftsmen. The city is renowned for its glassware, and you purchase several pieces to add to your cargo. You also buy carpets, beautiful woolen rugs with intricate geometric patterns, which are highly prized in the West. From Samarkand, you continue west to Bukhara, another major center of Islamic learning and trade. Then you face a choice. You can continue west through Persia, heading for Baghdad, the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate and one of the largest cities in the world. Or you can turn southwest, heading through Persia toward Syria and ultimately the Mediterranean coast. You decide on the southwestern route, heading for Damascus and then Antioch, which will give you access to the Mediterranean trade networks and the Byzantine Empire. The journey through Persia takes several months. You pass through Merv, Nishapur, and Ray, cities that are centers of Persian culture and Islamic learning. The landscape varies from desert to mountains to fertile river valleys. The Persian Empire has a long history of trade and sophisticated infrastructure, with caravanserais, fortified rest stops, located at regular intervals along the major routes. These caravanserais are a blessing. They provide secure shelter, water, food, and protection. Some are quite luxurious, with separate quarters for merchants, stables for animals, and even small mosques or temples. You pay a small fee to stay, but it is worth it for the security and comfort. As you travel through Persia, you notice how the religious landscape is shifting. This region was once dominated by Zoroastrianism, the ancient Persian religion of fire worship. But Islam has now become the dominant faith, though you still see Zoroastrian fire temples and meet followers of the old religion. There are also Christian communities, remnants of the spread of Christianity through Persia centuries earlier, and small Jewish communities in the cities. Finally, after more than a year and a half of travel, you cross into Syria and approach Damascus. Damascus is an ancient city, already thousands of years old, and it is now a major center of the Islamic world. The Umayyad Mosque, one of the largest and most beautiful mosques ever built, dominates the city center. The bazaars are legendary, covered markets where you can find goods from 3 continents. You have reached the end of the Silk Road. Here, you can sell your goods to Mediterranean merchants who will distribute them throughout the Byzantine Empire, to Italy, and even to Western Europe. The silk you carried from China will sell for many times what you paid for it. Chinese porcelain is so exotic here that it is worth its weight in silver. The jade and lapis lazuli find eager buyers. Your medicines and spices are purchased by physicians and spice merchants. After paying off your debts and expenses, you calculate your profit. You have more than tripled your initial investment. You are now a wealthy man. But the journey is not quite over. You have decided to continue to the coast, to Antioch and the Mediterranean, to see the sea that you have heard about all your life, but never seen. Antioch is a major port city, and here you experience the full diversity of the medieval world. There are Arab merchants and Byzantine Greeks. There are Italian traders from Venice and Genoa, who are beginning to dominate Mediterranean trade. There are Armenians, Jews, and Africans. There are ships in the harbor from across the known world. You stand on the docks, looking out at the blue water stretching to the horizon, and you feel a sense of accomplishment. You have traveled from one end of the world to the other. You have crossed deserts and mountains. You have survived bandits, illness, and the countless dangers of the road. You have seen things that most people will never see, cities and landscapes that exist in others' imaginations only. And you have prospered. Now you face a choice. You could sell your goods here and book passage on a ship, traveling by sea to Constantinople, to Alexandria, or even to Italy. The Mediterranean is relatively safe, controlled by Byzantine and Arab navies, and sea travel is faster than the overland route. Or you could gather new goods, purchase items that will sell well in China, and make the return journey along the Silk Road. Some merchants spend their entire lives traveling back and forth, accumulating wealth with each journey but never really settling down. Others make 1 or 2 journeys and then retire, living off their profits. What you decide is up to you, but one thing is certain. The Silk Road has changed you. You are no longer the somewhat naive young merchant who left Chang'an nearly 2 years ago. You have seen the world in all its diversity. You have learned that people everywhere are both the same and different, that they all want security, prosperity, and happiness for their families, but that they express these universal desires in infinitely varied ways. You have learned languages, tasted foods, and heard music from a dozen different cultures. You have haggled in bazaars from China to Syria. You have slept under stars in deserts and mountains. You have survived. The Silk Road is not just a trade route. It is a bridge between civilizations, a pathway along which goods, ideas, religions, technologies, and people flow. Buddhism traveled from India to China along this road. Paper and gunpowder will travel from China to the West. Islam is spreading along the trade routes, carried by merchants as much as by warriors. Artistic styles influence each other. Chinese motifs appear in Persian art, and Central Asian designs influence Chinese ceramics. Mathematical knowledge from India, preserved and expanded by Arab scholars, will eventually reach Europe and transform Western science. The Silk Road is where the world meets, where East and West exchange not just silk and spices, but knowledge and culture. But the golden age of the Silk Road will not last forever. The Mongol invasions of the 13th century will initially disrupt and then paradoxically facilitate trade, creating a vast empire that stretches from China to Eastern Europe, making the routes safer than ever before. But after the Mongol Empire fragments, the routes will become more dangerous again. The rise of maritime trade, particularly after the age of exploration, will offer an alternative to the dangerous overland routes. By the 15th century, the Silk Road will be in decline. By the 16th century, it will be largely abandoned, replaced by sea routes around Africa to Asia. The great Silk Road cities will decline. Some, like Samarkand and Bukhara, will survive but lose their international importance. Others, like the oasis towns of the Taklamakan Desert, will be abandoned entirely, buried by the shifting sands. For centuries, the Silk Road will be forgotten, remembered only in legend and in the exotic goods that occasionally appear in Western markets. It is only in the 19th and 20th centuries that explorers and archaeologists will rediscover the Silk Road, tracing the ancient routes, excavating buried cities, and piecing together the history of this extraordinary network. Today, the Silk Road is experiencing a kind of revival. China's Belt and Road Initiative is explicitly named to evoke the ancient trade routes, though it uses modern infrastructure, highways, railways, and ports rather than camel caravans. Tourists travel the route, visiting the great cities and imagining the merchants who came before. And historians continue to study the Silk Road, recognizing it as one of the most important networks in human history, a pathway that shaped civilizations and connected the world long before globalization became a modern buzzword. If you had traveled the Silk Road in its golden age, you would have been part of this grand story. You would have been one of the countless brave, ambitious, and hardy individuals who risked everything to carry goods across the known world. You would have been a link in the chain that connected civilizations, a small but essential part of the great exchange that made the medieval world far more interconnected than we often realize. And when you returned home, whether to China, Central Asia, or the Mediterranean, you would carry with you not just wealth, but stories. Stories of distant lands, of exotic peoples, of adventures and dangers. These stories would be told and retold, inspiring others to make the journey, to see the world, to seek their fortune along the Silk Road. The Silk Road reminds us that the desire to explore, to trade, to connect with others beyond our immediate world is ancient and fundamental to human nature. It reminds us that barriers of language, culture, and distance can be overcome when there is mutual benefit and respect. And it reminds us that the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture enriches everyone. That we are stronger and more creative when we learn from each other rather than remaining isolated. The camel caravans are long gone. The routes are now highways, railways, and airplane corridors. But the spirit of the Silk Road endures, the spirit of adventure, of commerce, and of connection that spans continents and civilizations. And so our journey along the Silk Road comes to a close. We have crossed deserts and mountains, visited magnificent cities, and experienced the wonder and hardship of one of history's greatest adventures. It has been a true pleasure to be your guide through this epic chapter of human history. Thank you for listening. Until our next journey into the past, I wish you a calm and peaceful night.